Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Abundant Street podcast. Hi, April.
Hi, Janice Luke.
You're
How
already waving at me, so it's like,
I
I'm
feel so
good.
much better.
Good. I'm so glad. I know you were kind of under the weather for a couple of
Yes,
days. So glad that
yes.
you feel better.
Thank
So,
you.
yeah, absolutely. So, y'all, welcome to the Abundant Street podcast. And it's Janice and April once again. And, at the time of this recording, guess what day it is, April? April
Hey,
1st.
first.
Yes, and so
But
today
I
we're
ain't no
gonna
fool.
right. I ain't no fool either, girl. And this is
We ain't no
and
fool.
no, and this is not an April Fool's joke either because we are gonna be announcing the winner of our big giveaway that we've been doing all month. So
Sure
stay
is.
tuned. We will announce that today, April 1st. So and it probably would have been already announced. So
Sure is. Which is in the future, but yeah, we got you guys.
yeah.
We got you
This
guys.
record yeah.
$100.
When this episode comes out, it is April 1st, and we will be announcing the winner. So
Right.
congratulations to the winner. So and we will have giveaways again in the future. Thank you so much for y'all support. And we'll say more when we announce the winner, but
So
awesome. So who's our guest tonight? I know he's awesome.
super awesome. Oh my God. We have a resilient entrepreneur whose journey from humble beginnings to overcoming addiction and financial struggles has inspired many. With a blue collar work ethic instilled from a young age, he has worn many hats from a farmhand to business owner to real estate investor. Now, as a retired author, he is grateful for the mentors who guided him and is eager to pass on their wisdom to others. Please join us as we explore his inspiring journey of resilience and entrepreneurship. We have Mr. Daryl Dittmer. I'm excited.
To
Such a
get Daryl.
powerful story.
Ah,
Show yourself,
Hi,
Daryl.
Daryl.
I'm trying.
I know.
We
There we go.
got you. It's
All
okay.
right,
Hey,
there we go.
Daryl.
That was easy.
How are you?
You got this.
Well, thank you. How are you?
Doing good. We're
Doing
so happy you
well.
came on tonight with us.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. Wonderful to be here.
Absolutely. So,
Absolutely.
wherever you want to start in your journey, let us know about Daryl. What
Yeah.
about you?
Well, I started off in the Midwest, and that's where I was born and raised for the first 26 years of my life. So, um, the Midwest is, and especially Michigan, which is where I'm from, is kind of famous for. My dad was a mechanic, and it was kind of typical Midwestern, which most people's dads worked for either GM, Ford, or Chrysler. And that was just kind of how it went. And so my mom took care of us kids. I have an older brother and a younger sister. And, we didn't have a lot in terms of money. And, but we had our needs taken care of. And we didn't know, when we were kids, we didn't know what we had and what we didn't have. I like to joke now that I didn't get the big wheel that all the other kids got, but that was that was fine. That probably motivated me at some point going forward. So um, it was I look at it today and I think it was a fairly typical Midwestern upbringing. The families around us were very similar, and that's just how we grew up. And I had a little break in the action where I got involved in drinking and drugs, and became kind of went downhill sort of fast as far as that went in my life. And by the time I was 19, I was in a drug and alcohol treatment program, and that was a 30-day inpatient program, and by the grace of God, I've been sober ever since, and it's been a wonderful journey for me. So so that's where I started, and that's where my relationship with living started. Um, so that's probably a good jumping off point, I guess. I guess here.
Wow.
You
That's
definitely been through it.
yeah, you've been through it, but you know what? You're on the other side of that. Like you said that unfortunately you went into the rehab and everything, but you're already on the other side of that, and you've been sober, I guess, for many years now. So that's wonderful. So congratulations to you on that. Yeah,
Thank you.
so yeah, that's
There's a lot
awesome.
about your character.
It really
Thank you.
does. Yeah. So yeah, when you said Big Wheel, I'm very familiar with the Big Wheel. It brought back a lot of memories growing up. So
Same.
that kind of tickled me, but that's so cool. I love that. Yeah.
Back in the day for sure.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely.
I don't know if those are around anymore, but that was just a big thing back then, right? Big
Yeah, they were.
wheels
They
zipping
probably have
around.
motors in them now.
Right, right. Yeah, they graduated.
Probably got
Yeah.
AI and all that stuff.
Probably.
What so when you were kind of going through that, were you working like a regular job? Um
I was most of what I did at that time in my life, because when I was 13, we moved out to a little town, like a farming town. And so we were at church one day, and I grew up Lutheran. That was sort of how we were raised. And my dad put me in front of one of the farmers at church, and he said, "Can you put him to work?" And that was, I think I was 14 then. And the farmer said, "Yeah, let's get him out there." So that's what I did for most of that time. And then I did some other jobs, as going through school and grocery store and whatever. But started working fairly young, and doing some fairly dangerous hard work as a kid. We'd go anywhere from 8 to as many as 16-hour days on the farm, and that's where I learned work ethic. Honestly, my dad was a hardworking guy and did a lot of overtime and taking care of the family and that sort of thing, and I saw that. But then I was also imbued with that work ethic as I worked hard myself, and I wasn't making much money. I think I started like $1.50 an hour, but when
yeah.
you're working, long hours, I didn't think about anything other than, well, the more hours, the more I get paid. That was kind of the cool thing. So that was where I started. And then when I went through treatment, my family hadn't gone through college. Nobody had graduated, from college at that point. And so it wasn't a thing for us. It wasn't like, oh, you're going to go to college and be this or that. My mom, when I was very young, she said, "Oh, I'd really love to see you be either a pastor or a doctor." And then I think that kind of went out the window with my drug addiction and all that sort of thing. So, which potentially could have happened, but my life went in a completely different direction. But I got out of treatment. I decided I wanted to go to college. I wanted to at least see if that was something that would help propel me in life, because I got very motivated after I went through treatment. Um, and I didn't think that it was going to do anything, incredible for me, but I thought it might get me into some doors, and get me some looks from some people and jobs and that sort of thing. So that's what I did for that time in my life. And then when I got out of college, I ended up doing carpentry, because that's what I did through college. So a little bit of a history in terms of doing different things, and then it gets a little more varied after that too. So
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Well, I know you started working at a very young age, and you said like the wage was like $1.50, but the perspective that you had, I admire that because even though you went long hours and had many days of very hard laborious work, you mentioned the way you thought about it is if you just worked more and worked longer hours or you worked more, the more you would get paid. So the way you looked, the perspective that you had with that was like positive out of the gate. And so I admired that because a lot of people would have been like, oh my God, another, kind of taking it like bad attitude and trying to, getting out in the hot sun, having to do all this. But I think that perspective kind of set the tone for you the way you thought of it, in my opinion. I mean, from what you're telling me, I just have my opinion, looking in as a third person, that you took that with you even though you went through your addiction and went through the rehab and everything. But when you came out of that, I think you probably still have that same perspective where you kind of look at it in a more positive light instead of being negative with all the amount of work and whatnot. But you saw it as an opportunity. The more I work, the more I get. So I admire that. I had to kind of share that my thought on that. So
I
I
second that
think
thought because I'm sitting here thinking like this man has like the character of like solid 24 karat gold.
you're
Like
right.
for
Yeah.
real. I'm sitting
Yeah.
it's
Thank you.
just that energy is it's not, it's different, it's different. So no,
It
much
is.
respect for you.
I
Because it's like nothing, you wouldn't let anything knock you down. Even like, and if you don't mind me asking, how old were you when you went through rehab?
I had just turned 19.
Oh wow, you were so young. Okay,
I,
yes,
I,
it's
I
crazy.
wasn't old enough to drink and I was going through rehab.
I mean, it happens, but it's just at a crazy age when you're still trying to figure stuff out too. You know what I mean? So that's a lot. And then it's the whole, well, let me go to college and get myself together because I had that hit me like really late. Like I was almost 30. I'm like, well, let me go to college and try to turn it around, right? And we think like college is gonna save us, and then it's just like, maybe not.
Yeah.
yeah. Right. But I just admire the way, like I said, the it's all about the perspective, I think, how you see things, and you don't always have to see it as a bad thing, but like something that's for you and not against. I don't know. Maybe I'm rambling, but I kind of see it that way. But I think that's awesome.
Thank you. And that's so true. And so many people that I've met, when I got into the business world, which was, an interesting sort of way that happened in itself. But when I got into the business world, and people would say all the time, "Oh, this is so much work. Oh, this is so hard." I'm like, "No, it's not. You haven't baled hay for 16 hours a day.
Yeah.
This isn't too bad. I'll do this." And everything has its own difficulties, right? Everything has its own challenges, and there's certainly an aspect of the business world that I eventually got into and spent a little bit of time in, that was very difficult. But it wasn't difficult like hard work, hard days out in the sun difficult. It was difficult because I had to use something that I hadn't used quite as much as I probably should have in my youth, which was this stuff between my ears, and so I had to learn how to do that too, and that was challenging.
So did your business come about from college, or is it something that you maybe did you start a business based off your carpentry, or what kind of business did you start?
Well, so when I was in college, I had a loft business, and I kind of fell into that because that they build the lofts off the ground in the dorms and bring the beds up. And
Mm.
so I didn't look at this as I didn't even know what the word entrepreneurial was or meant, or it was one of those long scary words that kind of creeped me out back then. I didn't know what it meant, but so I built a loft for myself. And then people came to me and said, "Oh, could you build one of those for me?" And can you build one of those for me? And so I told them $60, I'll build you a loft. I think the lumber cost me probably 25, took me about an hour, and it worked out fine. But I didn't go to many classes. I strategically went to classes the first 3 or 4 weeks of each, new school year, and built lofts right out on the lawn, backed up my truck full of lumber, and built lofts, and moved from that perspective. So that was kind of my first entree into entrepreneurship, which I had no idea what that was. But and then after that, I was asked by different friends of mine to get involved in sales. So after I got out of college, I started doing carpentry, and one of my friends said, "Hey, would you like to get involved?" And I didn't know what this was either, but it ended up being a network marketing company selling water filters. And he's like, "Oh, people are making these giant checks and this and that." And I was like, "Oh, wow, that's exciting." 30 grand a month or whatever it was. And so you get reeled into that. And I did that for probably a year, and some months were okay, some months weren't okay, but it wasn't a long-term fix, that's for sure. And then another friend asked me to get involved in a company that was around personal growth type stuff, and stress management, smoking cessation, etc. And so I got involved in that, and we ended up going out to Boston. And at that point in my life, I was in my 20s, so I didn't care. I would just do whatever, and it didn't bother me to take those kind of risks. And I was supposed to be out there for 3 months, and we were going to hire some salespeople, and because we were working with a behavioral therapist out of Boston, and that's why we started it out there from a sales perspective, because he had corporate clients that we could get into. That ended up not working that well at all, and everybody that I went out there with went back to the Detroit area, and I decided to stay. Did some work for a commercial window company, and then I got involved in the commercial insurance brokerage and risk management business as a sales guy. And that was because I met a guy at the gym, and I asked him for a job because I needed a job, and I knew I wanted to have something where I could write my own paycheck, so I could, be commission based. And so they started me at $30,000 a year, but it was on a draw, which means I owed it all back if I didn't make up for it with sales. So no pressure with that at all. And I wasn't that attuned to sales at that point anyway, but anyway, that ended up catapulting me into the sales business, and I spent some time doing that. And that company was bought by another company, and I ended up getting ownership in the second company because of my sales hitting my goals, and I ended up being one of the top sales guys in the company, and so they gave me some ownership. So that's kind of where that story spent probably 20 years in that business.
Okay, wow. So great work ethic, great perspective. Versatility is off the meat rack. I'm telling you, versatility is off the chart. Like
Yeah.
I'm resonating with it because I'm just resonating with it. I'll say that.
Yeah.
But yeah, you've done some of everything, but I feel like you have the I don't even want to say the capacity, the skill, the ability, the skill set to just meet and exceed the expectations in whatever field you are. And everything has been different, from farming to carpentry to sales to insurance to tobacco cessation to whatever. You're just like, tell me what I got to do, and let's get this money.
Right.
I love it.
That's awesome. Me and April always talk about the pivot. We call it the pivot, where
Yes.
sometimes you get into something and then you recognize, hey, this is not working out the way I really need it to work out, so I need to pivot and go another direction. Doesn't mean like you're quitting, but you may see a different opportunity, and it just sounds like that's what was going on with you, and that's so cool. And I just love that you had the entrepreneurial mindset, even though you didn't know what that was starting out. Like you're building lofts in college, and I know that was awesome because I remember similar stuff in my dorm room. We wanted to make our dorm room look awesome, So I remember the college years. So I could, but I could imagine that starting out like that. I mean, even though you didn't really know what you were doing, you were getting it instilled in you, and you just went with it, and you pivoted in each area, and then ended up being a top salesperson in the company. And are you still with this company, or are you doing something different now?
I pivoted again.
You put, I love it.
So I did that, and long ago, rewind to when I was a kid, and I told myself when I was doing carpentry and I was outside and I was, in the sun, and it just felt so good. And I said, you know what? I'm never going to wear a tie to work. I'm just never going to have a job where I have to wear a tie. Anyway, 20 years of a job where I had to wear a tie. And so never say never, right?
Yeah.
But it worked out really well. And then we got to this company, the second company that I had the ownership in, grew, and we grew from, there were about 6 or 7 of us to kind of kick this thing off when the other company was bought. And then by the time it got to, I'd say around 300 employees, it was too corporate for me. And, coming from where I came from, there was some things that didn't sit well with me. And that were difficult for me to stomach. So I said to my wife, Christina, well, and she was kind of getting sick of her. And she was a kind of a corporate person, like that's what she did. But I think we learned together that it may not be our forever thing. And so we started looking for businesses to buy, and we ended up, I had rehabbed an old house. And this is, I was still in Massachusetts. The funny thing is, my wife and I met, we grew up about 5 miles from each other in Michigan, never knew each other, and we met each other through business in Massachusetts, which was
Wow,
pretty cool.
that is awesome.
Really?
That's cool.
Yeah,
That is
Yeah,
yeah,
ordained by God.
yeah.
yeah,
That is
Love it.
yeah,
so crazy.
yeah. Somebody had a hand in that one.
Congratulations.
It wasn't mine. So anyway, we ended up buying a restaurant, and we uh, we ran that for about 9 years, and it did really well. And Christina's more responsible for that. I actually found myself loving the building, rehabbing old homes. I bought a different old home. First one I bought was abandoned for 2 years. The second one I bought was abandoned for about 7 years. So it was just a wreck. Everything growing in everywhere, and cobwebs and raccoons and squirrels and whatever else, spiders. I can handle everything but spiders. Anyway, so
Everybody has their thing.
yeah, spiders get me. But so we ended up doing that, and Christina ran the restaurant. I'd come in and host, and I would do, whatever, dishwashing. I don't care. I just look at whatever. I don't care what it is. I'll do what I have to do, and that's been my mindset for a long time. And I was busy, putting together these homes, these old homes that I bought, and rehabbing them. So we were very busy through that time, and then COVID happened, and COVID was obviously difficult for all small businesses, but restaurants, definitely took a big hit, and we did okay through it. But as that ended, we had a really hard time getting staff. And this restaurant was actually out on Cape Cod in Massachusetts, and we had a really hard time. So we said, you know what, we're just going to pivot again, and we're going to leave it all behind, and we're going to sell the restaurant, sell the other properties we had up around that area. And we ended up doing that and moving down to Georgia. And so currently I'm in the book writing pivot, and telling the story in hopes that I can help people through my stories and through some of the things that I went through and did, and hopefully it resonates with folks, and I can help them with their story.
I
So cool.
absolutely love
I love it.
it.
Awesome. That is so
Thank you.
awesome. So what's the name of your book? I need to know about this book now.
Yes.
That's so cool.
The name of the book is When I Stop Fighting,
Hmm.
and the subtitle is The Unexpected Joy of Getting My Head Out of My Butt. It doesn't say butt, but we'll just go with butt.
I love
I
it.
love it. Oh,
Um,
wow.
so it's sort of my entire journey, and everything up until really middle of 2023, and
Wow.
and and not one of those telling people what to do kind of things. It's more, here's my story, and I hope it resonates for you. And if somebody reads it and 10 or 20 years down the road, something pings and like, oh boy, that really helped me. That's what makes it worth it.
Love
Absolutely. That's
that.
so powerful. I love that so much. That's awesome.
It
Thank you.
is, especially since you've had so much, like such a wide array of experiences, and just like Janice was saying, like a really good perspective that I feel like I don't know, the work and entrepreneur at what do you call it? Like space is just changing so much. It's getting
Mm,
less personal. And but we're still personally responsible for doing it. So I think people kind of lose touch of why am I really here? What am I doing? And they may not have that guidance, or that word, like you said, like something that motivates them, or
Yeah.
even just not feeling alone. Like if somebody is confused or frustrated, like they can't find their path, or they keep pivoting, like just knowing that somebody else went through that and was still successful, and they made it, and they're not, like
Yeah.
just
Even
all messed up, is great, I think.
yeah, like they
thank
like
you.
you help them because you found your purpose through everything you've been through. And even though it started out rough, and you took care of it though, and you came through the rehab and everything, and you had so many great experiences through your entrepreneurial journey. now you're telling your story. So there are going to be people that are going to find it very powerful and resonate with you with your story as well, because they might, like April was saying, they might be going through similar, or the same kind of situation. And but to yet they know, hey, I got to get myself straight. He did it. If Daryl can do it, then I know I can.
Right.
Don't give up. Just stay the course, and you know, um, and then maybe they can have a testimony as well and share that with others. So that's so powerful. That's so great. So I give you your
Thank you.
flowers. So, and all through
Definitely
all that.
flowers.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you. No,
absolutely.
and the biggest thing that pervades my life, honestly, is gratitude. That I've been blessed to have a life where I've definitely taken my bumps and my bruises and my all that sort of stuff, and that's fine. I would not trade a moment of it, because the difficult moments are shaping. They help to shape me, and they're all stepping stones, and I can't not have gone through what I went through to move me to where I am today. And I don't even necessarily, there's a success part of life that I embrace, but a long time ago, success for me became waking up in the morning with a smile on my face. That became success, and that encompasses a lot of things. That encompasses, for me, how I treat my life, and how I go about things, and how I go about my life, as far as honesty and integrity, and if I'm able to pay my bills, and if I'm able to be grateful for what I have. All of those sort of things go into success for me, and help me to wake up in the morning with a smile on my face. So the idea of success, I think, morphs over time for all of us, and it can be real simple things. And for me, it's gotten very simplified, almost boiled down to its most rudimentary elements. And I'm not going through the couch cushions looking for change to put gas in my car to go to my next sales appointment. And I'm not
Amen.
eating potatoes, and I'm not living in a little, basement apartment with cockroaches and all that sort of stuff. And I did all that, and it wasn't fun, but it was all part of the journey, and it was all worth it. And I wouldn't trade it for a second.
Wow, so
Mhm.
powerful. You came a mighty long way, and I just have to give God, I have to thank God, because I'm a believer. So I just feel like
Me too.
Yeah.
sometimes, you go through, and like you said, it builds character, and God probably working with you through the whole traumatic events and stuff, but he brings you through it. And so now you have something to be grateful for, and you can help others that are going through as well. Hey, there's hope. You can do this. Don't give up. Stay the course. You're going through this for a reason. You're being shaped, like you said, and you know, it's like he's the potter, right, and we're the clay. So, so I think it's your story is very powerful, and I think a lot of people will resonate with your book. So, I'm going to tell our listeners, y'all better go follow Daryl and get that book. So, I'm hoping to look into that
Thank you.
too, so I can grab your book as well. But
Yeah,
I think your story is
definitely.
very powerful.
It is. I think
Yeah.
there is a saying that you remind me of. Shout out to the waymakers that leave the gate open. So you've been through all the rough patches and stuff like that, and you're kind enough to kind of let people know, like, hey, watch out for this, watch out, like you said, like kind of take what you need, leave what you don't want, kind of thing. But here it is if you care to find out. And it's like you're kind of telling people how to avoid those pitfalls and just things surrounding your circumstances. Of course, you can't just tell everybody, like 100% don't do this, but still, let people kind of come to their own conclusions. But I really feel like it's helping people get to a higher level, which we all, kind of well, I ain't gonna say all, but a lot of us are struggling to get to, and the struggle is real. Anything that could make it easier is much appreciated. So big shout out to you.
Thank you.
For
You know,
sure.
it, Thank you. It's really, I think there's so many things that are uh, lessons, and useful, and in terms of the journey, and sometimes we don't know that how useful they are, until we get through it, and we look back and we're like, oh,
It's true.
That's what that meant,
Yeah.
or oh, that's why that happened, or
Yeah.
and I I I live very much today by faith. I mean, that's my life, and that's what sort of drives me. I no, it's not what drives me. It's what directs me, because
Hmm.
I just do what's in front of me to be done, and then the next thing that I need to do shows up, and that's for me. That's moving with knowing that everything's going to be all right, and you just got to keep going. And that's what I want to impart to people who are getting on this journey, or are on this journey, and there's some confusion, or there's some uncertainty, and that happens. I mean, that's just part of it. And the biggest thing is just keep going, just keep going, because I'm not smart enough to know what the plan is. I don't know what the big picture is. I don't know what the big plan is. The only thing I know to do is do what's in front of me to be done. And that's, to me, that's the absolutely most important thing.
That's so powerful. I
Awesome.
love that. I know I can resonate with that because, I've come through quite a traumatic experience the last couple of years. And, I've been struggling with, but like I mentioned earlier, perspective and looking back and seeing how things played out in my life, and that it was supposed to happen that way because it happened for me to get me to where I am now. It had to happen that way. And so I'm now kind of realizing that myself. So that's so powerful, beautifully put. And I really think that's what happened with you as well. And so I know that you're going to really help a lot of people through your book and everything and through your message. So
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Even with what you just said here, like I know for me, like I'm Midwest also. I started out working very early, was in every field from transportation to food service to this to that to this to that, like whatever. So I really resonate a lot with your story and respect it. And I aspire to be at that place of peace and clarity that you are, because right now it's chaotic sometimes, and it's sometimes it's peace and sometimes it's happiness, sometimes it's chaotic. So I guess my question to you is like, what would you tell that person that is like that entrepreneur is struggling to make it, or just kind of like make sense of things in the world, like wherever they are. It doesn't even have to be entrepreneur related. And they're just at that place where it's just like, oh my God. What would you kind of tell them to kind of like level out?
I've been there 1,000 times, and everybody who is on the journey, and relatability is so crucial, to know that the people who have gone before me have dealt with the same stuff, and we all sort of come together at a place called emotion, right? We can have different experiences, we can do different things, but we all connect at emotions. We all have the same kind of emotions, fear or happy or sad or whatever it is. And so I guess the biggest thing for me that I needed to understand was it's okay to have the emotions of, hey, I don't know if I can do it anymore. I just want to quit. It's okay to think that. You're just not allowed to do it. It's okay to say, you know what, I'm really confused right now. And there's a part in my book where I talk about the butt kicking machine. It's not the butt kicking machine, but that's what we're going to call it for the sake of our podcast. And but but we can be really tough on ourselves, and sometimes that's not the worst thing in the world, but sometimes we defeat ourselves, and that's very easy to do, especially when we become tired, or become burnt out, or become confused. And so I refer to it as, one of the things I had to do is I had to turn off the butt kicking machine. I needed to stop defeating myself, and stop telling myself, well, you're not allowed to think this, and you're not allowed to feel this, and you're not allowed this, and you're not allowed that. Just I have to allow in my life, and I have to allow it to be difficult, and I have to allow for the hard times, because, and these are very important words for me, and have been for many, many years. This too shall pass. The difficult stuff always passes, and I have to have faith that the difficult things will pass, and they always do. And I don't know what's behind me, but anyway.
It went away.
Yeah.
In
So,
North Georgia, you're in the woods.
yeah. Well, that's crucial. I mean, it's really crucial to understand that, you know, there's a finality to the difficult stuff, and every time we level up, you know, we level up a little bit in terms of how we feel about the process and how we feel about how things go. And you know, it's crucial to keep our motivation and keep our faith until we get to a point where, and we get to a point where it gets easier.
Absolutely.
Man, those
Those are
4
some,
words, this too shall
man.
pass,
Yes.
are so powerful.
Drop
Those
the
are some
gems, drop the
gems.
mic. The gems
Yes.
and the mic have been dropped. So that's
Those are
awesome.
all gems. You're a
Yes,
gem. Thank you for sharing that with people because it does get ugly out here and it's just
it
it's a lot,
does.
especially now. Like it's just so much craziness going on everywhere. So thank you so much for that.
Yeah, and
Of
I love
course.
how you say that you allow yourself to go through that, the hard times. Allow yourself to feel the way you need to feel in the moment, because it will pass, but you have to give yourself grace. I know April
Yeah.
likes to say that a lot. I know, but you do. And it's so powerful that, everyone, we're not alone and, we're all going through it. And you have people that you can be surrounded with to help you through it. And I think your book, if people got a hold of that book, you can check the description, y'all. So, for the how to get your book and everything, but that a lot of people will resonate with that and know, hey, Daryl did it, he's successful, I know I can do it too. So that's so cool. I love that.
Speaking of, where can people find you?
I have a website which is daryldittmer.com, which is DARYLDITTMER.com. The book is available on Amazon. If you just type in "When I Stop Fighting" or my name, the book will show up. And I'm on all the socials, and I'll send you guys the socials, but TikTok and Instagram and Facebook and all the stuff that I never thought I would be on, but here I am, and that's great. But it's cool. I mean, it's some really, really cool communities on social media. So, and if anybody wants to send me an email or looking for, you know, help or advice or direction or anything, answer questions, I'm certainly available to do that. And that's Daryl@daryldittmer.com.
Absolutely, thank you so much, that's so good. Y'all get connected with Daryl. Reach out to Daryl so that way you can get a copy of his book, and you can find him on social media. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to him. That's so cool. I'm so glad you made yourself available to that. That's so to everyone. That's so powerful. But we want to say thank you so much for coming on tonight with us. It's been a
Absolutely.
pleasure.
Thank you so much for sharing your journey and your wisdom, your gems, and your book with the world, with everybody, because we're all out here just trying to make it at the end of the day. So thank you so much for that. You've been amazing. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. You guys are wonderful. You really are. You're just special souls. And it's been a wonderful conversation. And I know we're going to stay in touch, and I know we're going to, talk going forward. So thank you. Thanks for having me on, and thank you for being so full of grace and so generous. It's wonderful.
Thank
Thank
you
you
so
so
much.
much.
Absolutely. We're going to
Thanks
have
for
you back in
watching.
the future. Yeah. So
Yep, we
absolutely.
definitely have to have you back.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank
absolutely.
you guys for watching.
Thank you. Y'all have a great night.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye bye.
Bye.